Well, hello, everybody. Happy Thursday. This has been the craziest week. Oh my gosh, we've had sickness in the family, and we've had all kinds of other things. I have my new setup behind me, and I cannot figure out my lighting in the office. So I have like my ring light here. If I put it like right behind the camera, it looks all funky. And I normally have the camera right here where I'm looking. Now it's like up on the thing. We're trying to get some kinks worked out. We're trying to get some things together. But today I needed to record next week's episode of the Proffitt Podcast. So I thought, why don't I just hop on real fast and um do a live recording. So let me see. I did that one. I'm looking at my content calendar. I can actually show you. Let me share my screen. I can show you the world. Oh, that just totally popped into my head. Shining, shimmering, splendid. What Disney movie is that? I really don't know because I have all boys and I'm not allowed to watch girl movies apparently. So I don't even know what is that. I can open your eyes. Take what it's Aladdin. It's Aladdin. I remembered what that one was. Oh my gosh. Hang on, let me change this because you can't really see. I don't want that background. There we go. Okay. So this is what we talked about today on the podcast. We talked about what is a crosscast. I didn't talk about how to do one because I realized my audience needs to understand what a crosscast actually is. So that's what today's episode is about. But next week, and so what I'll do is I'll make it that pretty little color, and this lets you know how everything's going to go. So don't look at the upcoming ones. Here I'm gonna make it bigger where you can't see it. That's like spoiler alert. I don't want you to know all the things that we're going to be talking about soon. Hang on, why can't I zoom in? It's not letting me zoom in. Anyway, so we're talking about places to advertise your podcast is what next week's episode is about. It's what one of next week's episodes are about. So if you do have any questions, I am all ears. I was actually going to there we go, do them a little ticker. So while I'm recording, I'm actually going to record and edit this episode and have to be done before 1:30. So we gonna make it happen. You're actually going to see a full blown thrown together episode that I have been wanting to do for a while. And actually, hang on, let me look at my notes here. Yeah. We are not coming like all prepared with everything. You're just getting the raw version of me today. Yeah. Strep throat and all. Okay. So Melanie knows this about my family. We've been struggling. We've been on the struggle bus with a capital S this week. 3 out of 5 family members have been diagnosed or had symptoms of strep throat. Technically 4 out of 5 because my husband hasn't been feeling well either. And I'm here. My throat is okay, feels better than it did yesterday, but the show must go on. We must keep going. And so yeah, Melanie, thank you so much for being here, being supportive of me and my strep throat and all the things that are going on. I actually really want to figure out my lighting in the office. Now that I would normally be like this and you would have all this beautiful sunlight, but now the sunlight's hitting me this way and it's creating all kinds of weird shadows on this side. But anyway, I'll have to figure that out. We'll have to get that one done. I actually, if you have questions, post them in the comments and I will get those answered. But let me do this real fast. So like I'm literally planning everything right now too. Places to advertise podcast. Because I have all the ideas swirling around in my head, and this is actually what happens whenever I record. And I don't want to talk about the things that I had originally thought I was going to talk about today. I think I'm going to pivot. So what I'm going to do, and this literally happens all the time, anytime I sit down to record, I'm going to take this, I'm going to cut it we're not going to talk about that right now. I'm going to drop it at the bottom of my content calendar because I did have calendar planning for 2021. This is actually something that I got really excited about today when I started thinking about my own content calendar. So that's what we're going to talk about instead of advertising. So we're just switching things up on the fly. So content calendar planning. And I'm going to tell you how I do this. Planning 2021. Y'all, I'm literally just like nothing fancy. I'm scribbling this in my notes right now because people are like, oh, you must have this whole process. No, I literally have like a 4-point bullet list that I stick to whenever I'm going to record the Proffitt Podcast or the Potty Report. The Potty Report's even shorter. So, yeah, that's what I'll do. Oh, and I will make sure, because I have the episode number right here, I'll make sure and put it at the top of my notes when I'm planning an episode. So I make sure and say it correctly whenever I'm recording. It just makes things a lot easier. Okay, so content calendar planning. I'm going to write some notes real fast, and then you'll just have to hear. Okay? Okay? You'll have to hear. I'm just going to sing to you while I write. I'm going to hum. I'm not going to sing. It'll scare everybody off. Holidays. Man, I need some tunes in here. I need to move we have those like Echo Alexa devices. Tune you on. All you need is your ring pointing to that shadow side. Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, because I've been having it over here. So I need to bring it over here. Oh, and it'll be like the perfect trifecta of light. See, Mel, this is why I keep you around. This is why I keep you around. That and all the shenanigans that we do behind the scenes. Oh my gosh, that no one wants to know about. Okay, so let's stop sharing that part. All right. Oh, wait. Hang on. Hindenburg disappeared. There it is. So for those of you that don't know, this is my Hindenburg. Let me turn off this banner, this brand thing at the top. Here we go. I'm mostly here for the shenanigans. Yes, Melanie. Melanie's always here for the shenanigans. Yes, this is what we do really well. We have a lot of shenanigan parties behind the scenes. Okay, if you've never seen one of my live recordings, you will notice that my volume of the microphone goes crazy high whenever I'm recording. It's because StreamYard is technically controlling the mic and not Hindenburg whenever I'm using both. So it'll be louder than what it actually is in the published version, if that makes sense. So I'll turn it on. You see how it's all the way to the top? You made me a liar. You made me a liar, Hindenburg. Don't do that to me. Oh, there it goes. See, now it's going up. Okay. Yeah, we saw that. We all saw that together. Okay. Oh, this was the other thing I wanted to talk about. It's like I knew there were 3 things. Okay, here we go. Oh, look, it's almost 1:10. It's almost 1:10. You're wasting time, Crystal. Okay, so I got to do the intro first. Oh, mic check. 1, 2, 1, 2. I forgot to do a mic check. And you have to do this every single time. Like, it doesn't matter how long you've been doing this, you have to do a mic check. Because if you go through the whole episode and you screwed it up, you won't know until you're done, and then you're just going to be mad at yourself. Always do a mic check. Okay, it sounds great. I can hear myself. We're good to go. I can hear myself sounding like an idiot. We are good. And that's usually what happens too. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so I am so excited to talk to you about what everybody is thinking about right now. If you have not already started thinking about your 2021 podcast calendar, don't worry. It's not too late. It's not like, oh, you missed the bus and you should have been talking about it 2 or 3 months ago. It's totally fine, even like up until December 31st, 2020, to wait to plan your calendar. But it might be a little bit more stressful. So that's why we are talking about this today. I really want to put a lot of emphasis on being prepared for your 2021 podcast content calendar, simply because you can be a lot more strategic if you know what's coming, because you will no longer be reactive in the content that you're creating. You won't sit down and say, oh crap, what am I supposed to talk about next week? Every single week, and have like a groundhog day whenever you sit down to record your podcast. It's stressful. It is stressful. Don't do it. I've done it. Don't do it. I'm like, please learn from my mistakes. I don't want you to be reactive with your podcast every single week. I want you to go into 2021 with a solid strategy on what you should talk about on your podcast every single week. So today I'm going to give you 3 tips on how to do that. So let's get right to it. Okay. So and I'm used to my camera being here. That's why I keep looking here. This is the beginning, right? This is my intro. I'll save it. So let me go in to my podcast, save it in here. If you haven't seen my podcast files, this is what they look like. Hello, viewer, podcast files, you have met. So it's a Hindenburg file. I don't save anything as a WAV or MP3. I know I want to shorten that up because you're going to hear my mouse click. I just know this. So there we go. Now I'm going to go ahead and import my music, because this is just what I do. So I have my main theme, import that. Actually, that's on the wrong line. Always make those 2 line up a little bit. Okay. And then I'll save it again, Control S. Now we're ready to move on to the next section. And I got to get a drink of my coffee. Wipe the foam off of my face so I don't have it all over my face while I'm recording. Okay, ready? Are you good? You good? If you have questions, post them in the comments. We're talking about planning your 2021 content calendar. So if you have questions, let me know. Or comments. I welcome comments. Let me know. Here we go. Okay, so like I said in the beginning, we are talking about planning your 2021 content calendar for your podcast. Now, I've talked about a lot of different types of dates on the podcast already. We've talked about when to pick your launch date for your show, when you should actually start putting out episodes, what days you should publish. We've talked about these on the podcast and on the YouTube channel pretty extensively. So if you want to know more about like the specific week to week of how you should do your show, make sure you check out those episodes and those YouTube videos. But today I want to specifically like kind of wrap your mind, like help you wrap your mind. I can't even talk. Wrap your mind around the idea of how you should do this, how you should approach this, because I have learned from doing this. Here we are. We're on episode 210 of this podcast. I have learned so much about planning ahead, and how even if I just have ideas planned out on the calendar, it makes my life so much easier. Even sitting down today, I actually had a totally different topic I was going to speak about, but this idea came to me. And what I did, like for planning for 2021, I just grabbed the other idea. We're going to talk about, where you should advertise on your podcast. That's just push that into the future. It's going to happen. It's still coming. We're going to have this conversation because I know you want to know about how to advertise your podcast. But what I did is I cut that idea out of my little Google spreadsheet and I dropped it further down in my calendar because it's something I still want to talk about, but I have wiggle room in my calendar to throw in a spontaneous idea like what I'm doing right now on the show, and it doesn't stress me out. I get excited whenever I have a spontaneous idea simply because I know I have control of my calendar. That's why this is so important. And I probably wouldn't have control of my calendar had I not planned on a regular basis to know exactly what I'm going to talk about. I have episodes. I'm recording this on December 3rd, 2020, and I have going into January and February 2021 already planned out. Like they're done. The ideas are there. I have interviews that are coming up that I'm going to put in there. I have podcast ideas that I came up with months ago that I want to talk about during certain times of the year, and those happen in January and February. Okay, so that's really where this idea today came from and why it's super important to have a content calendar that aligns with your business, but also just makes sense for you. So I'm going to share, because I'm actually doing this next week, I'm going to share with you how I'm planning my content podcast calendar and how I'm going into the strategy, like the mindset that I'm in. So it's the tactical side, but it's also the mindset side that I really want to talk about. So, first and foremost, I want you to have your promotional calendar for 2021 complete before December is over. You've got to have that down. Now, this doesn't have to be set in stone. And I've talked about this here before. We all had big plans, right? We all had our vision boards for 2020, and we all set them on fire in March and April, right? No, I did. I looked at mine. I still have it hanging up in my bathroom, and I looked at it the other day and I was like, that's a joke, right? That's a total joke. Everything that I had planned to happen this year is just a dumpster fire, and we're just going to hit reset and we're going to try again. We're going to try again. That's exactly what my 2021 vision board is looking like. Like, it's just hit reset. This is going to be a big reset button that you would see like on a video game console. But going into 2021, I know what my promotional calendar is going to look like. So what is a promotional calendar? Well, that is consistent with your business and what you promote or what you sell, the services you offer, the affiliate programs you're a part of, or part of the promotion of your free resources. Like maybe you want to build your email list, and that's the first thing you want to do in the first quarter of 2021. You want to push to build your email list to the next level, and you have that strategically set up as part of your plan. Well, you need to bake that into your podcast content calendar as well. Because even if you're promoting on social media, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, wherever you are, you need to cross promote and talk about these things in multiple places. Because something that I have found as a consumer and a content creator, I realize not everyone follows you in all the places. And I may follow someone on YouTube and I don't follow them on Instagram. I follow someone on Instagram, I don't listen to their podcast. I follow someone on Facebook, I'm in their Facebook group, but I don't follow them on Instagram or somewhere else. So whenever you are setting up, whether it's your social media calendar, we can throw that into your promotional calendar as well, because all of these align with your business. And if your business isn't aligned on multiple levels, the shoe's going to drop somewhere. Like it's just going to happen. Like you may think, oh, I'm going to put all my eggs in promoting on Instagram. Instagram. Everything that I talk about, I'm going to do all my promotional sales, all of my Instagram stories, the reels. I'm going to do IGTVs. I'm going to do all this stuff on Instagram. But then on your podcast, you talk about stuff that's not related to your programs, or you don't have any self-sponsored ads in there. You're missing the mark. You're missing a huge opportunity to reach people on your podcast that don't follow you on Instagram. They don't even like Instagram. They don't even want to go on Instagram. They're like, I'm not going to sign up for an Instagram account. And maybe you're like, yeah, but that's not my audience. There's a good chunk of your audience that'll never follow you on social media. It's just how consumers are. I know there's a big chunk of my audience, maybe you listening to this podcast, that are on Twitter, and you're like, I wonder where Crystal's. I'm not on Twitter. Twitter's not my place. I've tried Twitter out a million times. It's just not my jam. It's not my thing. I don't like it. And so I just know that about my audience. So I want you to have your promotional calendar set in stone. And to give you a behind the scenes of how I do this, I plan my promotional calendar by quarters, because my brain works really well in like compartmentalizing things to keep myself away from shiny objects. So if this is you, if you have shiny object syndrome, I was actually having a conversation with a project manager that I'm working with. And I told her, I was like, I've got to get my content calendar and everything set in stone, because I'm getting emails from people that have really cool opportunities. I've gotten a few collaboration invites on doing some YouTube videos, and, some sponsors that have like kind of talked to me here and there. And I'm like, oh, that sounds like a good opportunity. And I want to say yes. This is my thing, is I want to say yes to everybody. It's not so much the people pleaser. It's because these are actually really cool opportunities. But if I haven't set my own boundaries, and by the way, I'm going to link to this in the show notes, crystalprofit.com/episode 210. If you've never read the book Boundaries by Henry Cloud and John Townsend. I don't remember which one it is, but it's Henry Cloud. And I'm going to link to it in the show notes. But Boundaries is one of the best books that anybody can read. If you have issues with personal boundaries, professional boundaries, like with your kids, with your parents, with your spouse, with anybody in your life, this is a huge book. I read it years ago and I still implement some of the things today that were really crucial in that book, but it helped me set boundaries professionally as well. And so I protect my time. And it's actually one of the reasons why in the month of December, I'm not doing any outside interviews that are not people in my community, meaning previous students of mine, previous clients of mine. I'm just not doing any kind of interviews externally in the month of December. And this was a conscious decision. There's a lot of things going on. And I had also planned for this in my promotional calendar last year. So whenever I was planning for 2020, I set the month of December to redo my course, to figure out how I wanted to go into the next year with the right strategy. And this was pre-pandemic, y'all. This is before I even had a membership community. This is before I started the Potty People. But I knew the month of December, I wanted to take time off. I wanted to be more intentional with my family. And I wanted to have the freedom to kind of work on some creative things that I wasn't going to be able to do throughout the rest of the year. So that's really what I'm talking about when it comes to your promotional calendar. So going back to thinking in quarters, I like to look at things saying, okay, in Q1, we're going to do this. In Q2, this is going to be our big push. Like I said, whether it's a paid thing, an affiliate promotion, I want to grow my email list, I want to grow my YouTube channel, whatever that looks like, every single quarter has a main goal. And then from there, we break that down into monthly goals, right? Like maybe in one quarter, I want to do a really big push for my digital course. Then 1 month may look like the ramp up to really talk about that product. And then another month may be really pushing all the free resources we have for that. And then the last month may be selling, whatever that looks like for you and your business. But you've got to have this already planned out before you walk into planning your podcast calendar. So that's number one. Got to have a promotional calendar in place. Number two, and I feel like I kind of did this out of order, but we're not saying that any of these are like weighted heavier than the others. But I simply just want to add that holidays and time off and the non-negotiables, that's all number two. You've got to know when you need time off, right? Like what are those holidays? Like for me, it's 4th of July, Thanksgiving, Christmas. Those are always the big holidays where we actually travel to go see people. I know this year has totally looked very different, but we just knew that we needed to get away. And so we planned for those at the very beginning of the year. So this isn't just for my business. This is also for my podcast. And the reason why, if I have that planned, then I know I'm not going to do interviews that week. I don't even want to do interviews the week before that because I'm going to be planning to take time off. So I can go into, I use Calendly to schedule all my podcast interviews. So I can go into Calendly and say, okay, I'm not taking any interviews this week or this week because I'm going to be preparing to take time off, or I'm actually taking time off. So I don't have to worry about going to a guest who scheduled a time and I'm like, oh no, wait, I'm so sorry. I forgot to tell you we're going to be out of town. Nope. As soon as I know I need to take that time off, I will go into my calendars and set it accordingly. Or if I know that, it's one of my kids' birthdays or it's an anniversary or something else like that. And then going back to your promotional calendar, do the same thing. Like all of your calendars should be aligned. You shouldn't have like 15 different calendars. You're trying to make sure things don't overlap. You want to make sure that you have those holidays in there where and even I know guys, like most people aren't traveling, right? Like it's not a typical year. 2021 probably won't be a typical year of people taking vacations and it's, extended stays with lots of relatives or anything like that. But I do think it's still important to take time off. Just because you're not traveling doesn't mean you don't need time off, right? We took the whole week of Thanksgiving off with family. My husband and I did some traveling ourselves, and we needed that. And we needed it more than we really thought we did. And I planned accordingly. I worked my butt off the week before we left. And yeah, of course, there were still some things that I was like, oh my gosh, I wish I would have thought about that beforehand, but I'll work on that on the plane ride home, or, when we're in the car, my husband's driving, like I got caught up on some stuff, but plan for time off. This is so important. So make sure you add in holidays, time off, and those non-negotiable times that you just know this is when I'm going to take a break. And I highly recommend, again, going back to the quarters. I like to plan in quarters. You do this at least once a quarter, right? It's not once a year where you're like, oh, I think I'm into, no, 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 no. If you look at the school calendar, this is also what I do. Like as a parent, I will get our ISD, our school district's calendar for the year. I will grab this and say, okay, the kids have a random week that they have a day off. So they end up with a 3-day weekend. Let's plan to do something that weekend, even if it's a staycation and we all just stay home and play games or whatever we do. But I intentionally will make sure that I don't have anything business related, podcast related, no interviews, nothing on that day. Super important. So this really rolls into the third point. So the first one is making sure your promotional calendar is set before you start thinking about your podcast calendar. The second one is your holidays and your non-negotiables. And the third is time off. So technically I rolled in time off into number 2, but time off really is that important, because whenever it comes to holidays and all the things that that you're celebrating, time off is also for yourself and for your business, or it's just for creativity. I've spoken to so many entrepreneurs that say, well, how do you have the energy for new ideas? How do you have the headspace to think about a new project? Like I can't even tell you how many people ask me whenever I released my book this year. So I released Start a Binge-Worthy Podcast in October. And so many people were like, how do you have time? How do you have time to write a book? And yes, I do already have an idea for another book. I'm not talking like, I can't stop the creative process from like, it happens to me. I just, I kind of sit back and it happens, but you have to plan for that. Like I had to plan to be able to write this book this whole year, to be able to edit it and format it and all the other steps that came along with writing a book. You have to plan for that. It won't just happen. It will not. If you just say, oh, well, whenever time pops up and I'm able to sit, nope, you have to make time for that. So I want you to ask yourself, looking at 2021, assuming that none of us have a crystal ball and can say exactly what's going to happen, because I don't know. You don't know. We're just kind of guessing. We're still guessing at a lot of things in life right now, right? But if you could say, if I could work on this one dream project of mine, what would it be? And I'll share mine is I want to redo my website. This is something that I'm looking to do in Q1 of 2021. It's not something I had originally said, I'm going to do this in January. It's going to be my number one project. But now looking at how November and December have gone for my business, I'm like, I might have to push that into February. And I'm okay with that because I've already done some initial planning to know what's coming up in the next few months. And I'm totally okay with moving around my calendar that way because I'm very specific. Again, going back to boundaries, I have very set boundaries. I have set work hours. I have a lot of things that are in my control for my business simply because I've made sure that I still have control of those things. So again, I'm going to link to that. I'm mentioning it again. So Boundaries by Henry Cloud and John Townsend. I'm pretty sure it's John Townsend, but crystalproffitt.com/episode 210 is where you're going to find these, or this book and all the resources, all the show notes that we talked about here today. But It's just so important. If you have not done this, like this should be your New Year's resolution going into January is I want to have better boundaries around my time, around making sure that I put things that are a priority. And just because I'm feeling a little ranty today, we are spending so much time consuming social media and not enough time creating things, right? I'm gonna step up on my soapbox for just a second. Okay. We are mindlessly scrolling and just looking at things to see what other people are doing. And we're telling ourselves, well, I'm here to get ideas. I'm here because I just want to see what's going on. But yet an hour has gone by and you've wasted 60 minutes of your life looking at what other people are doing. And so one of the things that I learned from Marie Forleo, this would have been in 2019, was create before you consume. And I actually had it on my whiteboard. I recently had to wipe everything off my whiteboard when we moved it and we redecorated the office, but create before you consume is what it's like my mantra in the morning. So every day, whenever I wake up in the morning, I journal, I have my cup of coffee, I snuggle with my fur babies. Like it's just what I do every single morning. I get up at like 5 a.m., make my coffee, I do my writing, I do journaling, and I create something before I consume. I don't check my email, I don't check my Instagram, I don't even really look at my phone. I create something before I consume, even if it's just writing in my journal. Sometimes it's just nonsense, shenanigans that I write in there, but it's just something I have to do because at the end of the day, I can look back and say, okay, at least I created something today. And those some things, I'm saying like air quotes, those some things of me writing in the journal is what you see in my business. It's an idea that I had one morning to create a low ticket item that's going to be available really soon that I'm so excited about. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Like it was a brand new product. And that product was birthed in that hour of being quiet, being still, and having room for creativity. So, this is what I'm talking about. You've got to set those boundaries. You have to take time off from just going, consuming all the time and not actually creating anything. But that's all I have for you today, guys. So, again, to like reiterate everything, recap, the first thing I want you to do before you start planning your content calendar for 2021 is look at your promotional calendar. What are the things that you want to promote, create, sell, advertise, whatever that looks like for you, your products, services, affiliates, whatever that is, you have to make sure that you have that set in stone before you create your podcast content calendar because you want to make sure that you're promoting those things in all the places, social media, your podcast, all the things. And we'll have another episode soon about the strategy of how I do that. But I just want to make sure that you have your promotional calendar ready before you start worrying about your content calendars. The second thing is I want you to look at holidays and vacations when you're doing your content calendar. Like if you know you are going to be gone every year on the 4th of July, then don't plan to put out content that week. I mean, excuse me, let me rephrase that because we're always putting out content every week. But I want you to plan to batch 2 or 3 episodes a week before if you know you're going to be off. And this is actually something I need to bring up. I made a mistake in the recent vacation that I took. I worked my butt off the week before to have enough content for whenever I was gone, but I didn't plan for the next week. So I had like, okay, like I'm going to be gone this week. So everything's covered for that week. But then whenever I got back, I was like, oh crap, I don't have anything for this week. I should have had 2 weeks of content planned and done and ready to go before I left. So it's really important to look at your holidays of when you're going to be gone, any vacations, and then going into number 3, time off. It is so important to take time off and to plan to take time off. Like make this one of your non-negotiables that you're going to take time off, even if it's just once a quarter. You need to make it happen. Even if it's just a long weekend, you need to make it happen. So super important. And I hope that you enjoyed this content here today. I would love it if you would hop on over into our free Facebook community. It's going to be linked in the show notes. So again, crystalprofit.com/episode 210. It's the Proffitt Podcast online community. I would love to know what you thought about this episode and give me a little shout out about what you're looking to learn to create your podcast. We have so many podcasters in there that are looking to get started and launch their show. And there's a lot of people that are looking to collaborate and grow, but it's also a great place to get feedback if you're not already kind of plugged into a community where you can ask questions and say, hey, this is my artwork. What do you think? Can you help me choose between A and B? So make sure you join us in our Facebook group. But if this is your first time tuning in, I would love for you to subscribe to the show wherever you're listening. And also leave us a rating and a review. I love to read the reviews. It's one of my favorite things. And to see what people are learning from the podcast or what you want me to talk about more. It really helps us push this content out in front of more people. And again, the show notes are crystalprofit.com/episode 210. But that's all I have for you today. So remember, keep it up. We all have to start somewhere. Okay, so I let it run. It's taking a little bit longer because I'm streaming. That's why. Okay, so I let it run a little bit after I'm done talking because I've cut myself off more than once. I've cut myself off. But I can tell, just because I've done this too many times, I can tell that's a mouse click right there. So I'll go in, I'll cut that. I will save this. And then right here, I'm going to import my music. And then I did see a question about adding something at the end. So hang on one second because I did see your question. So I know I need my music to be -20. Don't ask me why -20. It's what I've always done. And then I bring that down. That makes my music fade in. And then I will listen to it once again. And again, the show notes are crystalprofit.com/episode 210. But that's all I have for you today. So remember, keep it up. We all have to start somewhere. Okay, so that's off. I need it to be right about there. Perfect. Okay. So I do that. Save. Well, that's it. That's literally it. I don't do any more editing outside of that. Did you hear where I messed up? I'm going to leave it in there. Because this is my philosophy. I don't do a ton of editing. I don't edit out my I don't edit out anything else like that. And actually there's a new feature that Buzzsprout's rolling out about or that has to do with ads that I'll tell you more about soon. I'm really excited about it. But I am not even actually adding my own self-sponsored ads into my episodes at this point because I can do it with Buzzsprout. And I'm so excited. Oh my gosh. I can't wait. Just wait. It's coming. I'm going to tell you all about it. It's coming. But the last thing I'm going to do, I'm going to cut that out because I know that's a little thing. Oh, wait, hang on. Let me undo this real fast. Let me tell you what I'm doing. I'm just like clicking around showing you. Okay. So I know that I need, hang on, let me zoom in just a little bit. I know I'm moving fast. This is just what I do. I do this all the time. I just start clicking around, clickety click. Okay, so if you have music and you want to kind of shift everything down together, this is in Hindenburg. You can do the same thing in Audacity. It just looks a little bit different. If you're using Audacity, I'm sure you can do it in GarageBand too. But I will grab this and come down here. This is always a little funky because I got to zoom in some more. But I want to shift both of these down because they're not aligned with my music that I want to have down here. So I'll do Control and I'll click on this. And when they're both that orange color, I know that I can move, they'll stay together. So I align it over here. I'm pointing with my hand like you can see. I will align it over here first, and then I'll grab the two together, and then we're going to shift them down. We're going to do a little shifty shift. Okay. Because they're both highlighted. I'm going to move it down to about there. And then it's too far. So there, and then I'll listen to it one more time right here, and then we'll be done. Okay, so like Ooh, it's loud. There we go. And we're done. Save. Boom. And that's next week's episode. So I did it. I wanted to be done by 1:30. It's 1:40. Gotta go pick up my son. But it's done. So now there you have it. There we go. Let's export this bad boy. And then I will make sure it goes to the right place. Episode 210. And I don't do as much like naming beforehand, like whenever I save it in my system, like I used to, simply because it takes more time and I can just do the numbers and it's my own system. So I want to answer Kim's question real fast. Kim, I don't know if you're still here. So you record your intro first. What if you go off track? I need to know what that means by go off track. I guess I don't understand the question, because I'll do my introduction and then whenever I'm done with that, I separate it. I don't know if you stuck around to seeing the separation here, because I add in my podcast main theme underneath. Here, hang on. Let me go share my screen again. So right here, you can see this is my intro, and down here is my music. And then up here is where it continues. So I can see the break in like the different tracks. I don't like to have one long track. When I used to do this in Audacity, I would have like 8. It would be like the introduction, and then it would be my main theme, and then an ad or however I did it. Like it was this way. Like I made them longer and not this way. So let me know if that makes sense. But that's how I've always done it. I don't like doing one long track where I can't see what it is, unless over here in Hindenburg, you can go in and rename it. I always forget. I think it's here. Yeah. So I could rename this intro if I wanted to. That way, I mean, I could move that around to somewhere else, or I could come over here and rename this to be, if it was an interview, I could be like Crystal, and then the other one, it could be the guest. So let me know if that answers your question. And then Melanie says, how much space do you leave for spontaneous content, or do you? Ooh, so I kind of answered that earlier, and I think you were here. I don't necessarily leave room open. I just know it's almost like I have anchor content that I know, oh, I've got to talk about that one piece on that certain day. Other than that, everything's kind of fair game. Unless I've promised someone like that I did an interview with. I did an interview recently for someone that I'm going to air at a specific time in January, because she's one of my friends. And I was like, hey, I know you're launching like her program at that time. So I said, I'll air it around when you're launching, because I know that'll help you. Other than that, anything's fair game. I can move anything around because this is my calendar. That's how I have it set up. It is not at the mercy of anybody else but me and what I decide. This goes back to my boundaries, and I always make sure that's important. Yeah. So important. I don't know who this is. I wish I could see your name, but I think you were talking about boundaries and taking time off, because I think that's when I saw that comment pop up. Okay, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. I like doing these live recordings. They do make me a little nervous, though, I have to say. I think I do better doing the pod. Like, it's different when I'm on video and I can just talk and like we're good to go. But whenever I'm doing this and I have to look at my notes and I have to look up here and I have to look all around, maybe I just need to like put a camera where I can't, like, I don't know what's on me, and then just turn it on and then just go and do my thing. But I don't know. I hope you enjoyed this. Yeah. So last question, do you script what you're going to say? And if you do, what is your format? So really funny. This is my script for today. I literally, right here, it has 3 bullet points, and that's all I did. But I've been doing this for a long time. I've been doing this for over 2 years. This is over 300 something episodes in. I don't need a big script. I know what I'm going to say. And because of the way I do my transcripts and everything on the back end, I can do my show notes very easily without a detailed script. It's not how I started. I started with very detailed scripts. How do we call them scripts? Outlines, because I didn't read them verbatim. It was more of, okay, these are the high points that I have to make sure that I include in this episode. Other than that, it's probably okay. Like, I don't need to read it verbatim. But I do know a lot of my students that use scripts probably for their first 10 episodes, and then they feel more comfortable just kind of going with the flow and going with a pretty loose outline. So I hope that helps. I hope y'all enjoyed this. Y'all have a fantastic day. And I will talk to you soon. Let me know what y'all thought about this. If you want to see more behind the scenes of me editing, I'm going to upload this episode soon and you'll be hearing it next week. So bye guys. I'll talk to you later.